The night Sophia Mercer walked into Ethan Cross's life. She wasn't supposed to stay, wasn't supposed to remember his name, and definitely wasn't supposed to change the trajectory of both their fates. But fate has a cruel sense of humor, especially in cities where crime breathes like oxygen and love survives only in shadows. And it all began on a rain-soaked evening when the city pulsed with sirens and neon and regret, when Sophia stepped into the rooftop bar above the Marrow Hotel wearing a simple white shirt and eyes that carried the weight of too many goodbyes, the kind of eyes Ethan noticed immediately, because he recognized that look. Someone running from something, or towards something worse. Ethan was there on business, though business had long ago stopped being clean for him. A former undercover detective turned fixer for men who never left fingerprints. A man who lived between the law and the grave. And tonight he was supposed to meet a courier, exchange a drive, disappear, but plans fracture easily when emotions get involved. And Sophia didn't sit at the bar like everyone else. She stood near the edge of the rooftop, staring out at the city like she was memorizing it for the last time. Rain misting her hair, lights reflecting in her eyes, and when she turned, their gazes collided in a way that felt less like attraction and more like recognition, as if two wounded animals had just found each other in the dark. And neither smiled, because smiling would have made it a lie. Instead, there was silence, thick and charged, broken only when she spoke first. Her voice steady but tired, asking if he believed people could disappear without dying. And Ethan, who had watched men vanish into concrete and oceans, answered honestly, saying disappearance was just another kind of death. And she nodded, like that was the answer she feared but expected. And then she asked if he was alone tonight, and he said yes, though technically he had enemies everywhere. And she said good, because she only had one night, and she didn't want it wasted on small talk or promises, and that sentence alone should have made him walk away. But instead it rooted him in place, because men like Ethan don't get offered honesty often, especially not from women like Sophia, whose hands trembled just slightly when she lifted her glass, whose calm felt practiced, whose sadness was controlled like a weapon. And they talked, not about jobs or past, but about moments, about the exact second life veers off course, about mistakes you'd make again if it meant feeling alive for 5 minutes, about how the city eats the softest people first. And with every word, Ethan felt something crack inside him, something he'd sealed off years ago when his partner was murdered, during a sting that went wrong, a night that still replayed in his dreams. And Sophia, unbeknownst to him, carried her own ghosts, a brother buried under a false confession, a criminal empire she'd been born into but never wanted, a deal she'd made that required her to vanish by sunrise or die screaming. And when she finally said she wanted to leave with him, just for the night, no names, no future, Ethan hesitated only long, enough to remember all the times he'd said no and survived but felt nothing afterwards, so he agreed. And the city watched as two strangers crossed a line neither could uncross. The hotel room was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels earned. And when they lay together afterward, rain tapping against the windows, Sophia traced the scars on Ethan's chest like she was reading a map. And he didn't stop her, because for once he didn't want to hide. And she told him, without details, that by morning she would be gone, and he told her the same, though he knew his world wouldn't let him disappear that easily. And somewhere below them, engines started, guns were loaded, deals were betrayed, and the drive Ethan was supposed to exchange that night sat forgotten in his jacket, containing evidence that could burn an entire syndicate to the ground, including the one hunting Sophia. And when dawn crept in soft and gold, she dressed quietly, pressing a single kiss to his shoulder, offering no explanations, only saying thank you for not asking. And as she left, Ethan felt it, the certainty that this night was not an ending but an ignition, because men like him don't survive coincidences, and women like her don't walk away clean. And as the door closed behind her, Ethan finally checked his phone, lighting up with missed calls, threats, warnings, and one message that froze his blood. because it contained a single name attached to the drive he still carried. A name he had just heard, whispered in his sleep, by the woman who promised she would be gone by morning. And in that moment, Ethan understood the truth, brutal and unavoidable. The woman he gave one night to was standing at the center of a war that would demand everything he had left, and the city, indifferent and hungry, was already closing in.